Konnichiwa, minasan. O genki desu ka? Welcome to the intermediate course of my channel. Let's learn Japanese with Eric. In this lesson, we learn how to enumerate actions that are in no particular order. The conjugation for this is TARI-TARI SURU. Yoroshii deshou ka? Hajimemashou. In this lesson, we will learn how to enumerate in Japanese actions that occur in no particular order, or that are a subset of a wider range of actions. We will also learn how to describe repetitive actions, as well as states or situations that are inconsistent, using adjectives and nouns. The conjugation for all these is TARI-TARI SURU. So what is TARI-TARI SURU? It basically means I'll do this action and etc. Remember the particle ya that you use to enumerate a partial list of nouns? Ya is used for nouns to mean and etc. However, TARI-TARI SURU is used to mean and etc. for verbs and adjectives. So how do you form TARI-TARI SURU? It comes from the plain past affirmative conjugation of the verb ta form. Then to it, you add ri. You do the same to the next action that you enumerate. Usually you say 1 or 2 actions, but you can certainly add more to the list. Then at the end of the list, you end the enumeration with suru, which is the verb to do. Suru is the verb that decides the tense of the sentence and can be conjugated to the negative, past tense, negative past, as well as to other modalities, such as request, permission, prohibition, rough command, and so on. If you recall the 10 basic verb conjugations, which we tackled in lessons 26 to 30 for each verb category, the conjugation that we use for enumerating actions is the plain past affirmative form of the verb. Let's quickly review how to make this. Let's briefly look at how to make the plain past affirmative form. For a ru-dropping verb or category 1 verb such as taberu, which means to eat, drop the ru and replace with ta to form the plain past. Tabeta, ate. And to ta, add ri to form tabetari. All ru-dropping verbs conjugate this way. You can review basic conjugation of category 1 verbs in lesson 26. For category 2 or last hiragana changing verbs, these are the 9 kinds of hiragana endings of the dictionary form of the verbs. To form the plain past, ku changes to ita, gu to ida, su to shita, bumunu change to nda, and ru tsuu all change to utta. And to these new endings, you add ri to form itari, idari, shitari, ndari, and uttari. Basic conjugation for category 2 verbs are explained in detail in lessons 27 to 29. For the 5 commonly used category 3 or irregular verbs, suru, kuru, iku, aru, and da, these are their plain past forms, shita, kita, itta, atta, and datta. And adding ri to each one forms shitari, kitari, ittari, attari, and dattari. Basic verb conjugation of these irregular verbs can be reviewed in lesson 30. Consider this sentence. I will watch TV, play with my dog, and eat dinner. What if the actions are in no particular order, or they're part of a wider set of actions? Then we need to use the TARI-TARI SURU conjugation. And in Japanese, we say, terebi o mitari, inu to asondari, sushi o tabetari shimasu. Terebi o mitari, inu to asondari, sushi o tabetari shimasu. The first action mentioned is mitari. Second action, asondari. And third action is tabetari. Then we end the sentence with shimasu to indicate non-past affirmative formal. Will do. The actions are not necessarily in order. I may actually play with my dog first, then eat sushi, and then watch TV. And on top of these 3 actions, I will do other actions not mentioned in the sentence. If the actions were in order, one after the other, we need to use the te form of each verb. We learned to do this in Lesson 32, how to use and for verbs and adjectives. And in Japanese, we say, terebi o mite, inu to asonde, sushi o tabemasu. Terebi o mite, inu to asonde, sushi o tabemasu. Because the te form is used, this sentence means that I'll watch TV first, followed by playing with my dog, and then finally eating sushi. And these are the only 3 actions I will do. Let's practice making the tari-tari suru conjugation using very common verbs in all verb categories. Keep in mind the rules for conjugating the plain past form of verb categories 1, 2, and 3. Let's start with category 1 or the root dropping verbs. Akeru is to open, and aketari means to open among other actions. Deru is to leave a place, and detari means to leave among other actions. And now on to category 2 verbs. Aruku means to walk, and aruitari means to walk among other actions. Oyogu means to swim, and oyoidari means to swim among other actions. Hanasu means to speak, and hanashitari means to speak among other actions. Tobu means to fly, and tondari means to fly among other actions. Yomu means to read, and yondari means to read among other actions. Tsukuru means to make, and tsukuttari means to make among other actions. Tatsu means to stand up, and tattari means to stand among other actions. Arau means to wash, and arattari means to wash among other actions. And for category 3 verbs, kuru means to come, and kitari means to come among other actions. Iku means to go, and ittari means to go among other actions. Suru means to do, and shitari means to do among other actions. Aru means to exist, and attari means to exist among other states. Da is the verb to be, and means is, are, or am. Dattari means to be among other states. We can also do this to negative conjugations. Simply take the plain negative past form of the verb or adjective, nakatta form, and to it add ri and the usual suru. We'll have examples of this later in the video. Now let me give you some phrases that suggest inconsistent actions. For example, to eat and drink, like one does constantly at a party. In Japanese, tabetari, nondari suru. Tabetari, nondari suru. To come and go, like what customers do. They come and go to the store as they please. In Japanese, ittari, kitari suru. Ittari, kitari suru. To laugh and cry, like when you watch a comedy drama, telenovela. In Japanese, warattari, naitari suru. Warattari, naitari suru. To stand up and sit down, like what kindergartners do in the classroom all the time. In Japanese, tattari, suwattari suru. Tattari, suwattari suru. To rain on and off. Doesn't it always in the spring? In Japanese, ame ga futtari yandari suru. Ame ga futtari yandari suru. To open and close, such as what people do to a door or to the fridge. In Japanese, aketari, shimetari suru. Aketari, shimetari suru. Turn on and off, such as what we do to our cell phones or other electronic devices. In Japanese, tsuketari, keshitari suru. Tsuketari, keshitari suru. Sing and dance, such as what you see in a variety show. In Japanese, utattari, odottari suru. Utattari, odottari suru. Now let's look at example sentences. At the party, I will eat, drink, and dance, among other actions implied. In Japanese, パーティーで食べたり飲んだり踊ったりします。パーティーで食べたり飲んだり踊ったりします。In school, we read, wrote, and spoke in Japanese, among other actions. This sentence is in the past tense. In Japanese, 学校で日本語で読んだり書いたり話したりしました。学校で日本語で読んだり書いたり話したりしました。The tense of the sentence is decided by しました, not by the TARI-TARI conjugated verbs in the middle of the sentence. In university, students freely go in and out of the classrooms. This expresses repetitive going in and out of the classroom. In Japanese, 大学では学生たちは自由に教室に入ったり出たりします。大学では学生たちは自由に教室に入ったり出たりします。In church, you're not allowed to talk or take photos, among other actions. In Japanese, 教会の中で話したり写真を撮ったりしてはいけません。教会の中で話したり写真を撮ったりしてはいけません。The suru at the end is conjugated into a prohibition, which we learned back in lesson 38. してはいけない。Opening and closing the door destroys the seal. Again, this is repetitive action of opening and closing the door. In Japanese, ドアを開けたり閉めたりするのはシールを壊してしまう。ドアを開けたり閉めたりするのはシールを壊してしまう。The subordinate clause uses the TARI-TARI SURU conjugation and is nominalized by the particle no, turning the whole verb clause into a noun phrase, which is now the topic or subject of the sentence. We learned how to make subordinate clauses using no and koto in lesson 44. Do you study every day? 毎日勉強しますか? No, sometimes I do, sometimes not. Again, this is inconsistent actions, and this time we use the negative past in the TARI-TARI SURU conjugation. In Japanese, we say, いえ、勉強したりしなかったりします。いえ、勉強したりしなかったりします。You don't translate the word sometimes in Japanese because that meaning is built into the TARI-TARI SURU conjugation. The first verb is to do, したり. The second action is the negative of the first action, しなかったり, don't do. It comes from the plain past negative of suru, しない、しなかった、しなかったり. Now, when you have a construction like this, where the second verb is simply the negative of the first verb, then the ending suru verb can be replaced with des. So you can also say, いえ、勉強したりしなかったりです. However, there's a slight difference in nuance. 勉強したりしなかったりします means that I study and stop within one study period, whereas 勉強したりしなかったりです means that I study sometimes and not study sometimes as a matter of habit. Now let's look at the case for i-Adjectives. For i-Adjectives, we form the plain past form of the adjective, which ends in katta, and add ri to form kattari, and then end with the verb suru, kattari suru. You can review basic i-Adjective conjugation in lesson 15. Now let's look at the case for na-adjectives and nouns. As you know, na-adjectives are grammatically nouns, so we can look at nouns and na-adjectives together. When you have a noun as predicate, your verb is da, or the verb to be. Plain past is datta. Then we add ri and suru to form dattari suru. You can review basic na-adjective conjugation in lesson 16. Example sentence, This room is sometimes hot and sometimes cold. This sentence indicates inconsistent states, that the room alternates between being hot and cold. In Japanese, この部屋は暑かったり寒かったりします。この部屋は暑かったり寒かったりします。You don't need to translate the word sometimes because that meaning is built into the conjugation. The kids are sometimes noisy and sometimes quiet. Again, this indicates inconsistent states. In Japanese, 子供たちはうるさかったり静かだったりします。子供たちはうるさかったり静かだったりします。In this example, we use a noun. Chinese language teachers are sometimes Chinese and sometimes not. The verb we use here is da, so we use dattari, and the negative of it is janakattari. In Japanese, 中国語の先生は中国人だったりそうじゃなかったりします。中国語の先生は中国人だったりそうじゃなかったりします。I add so here for emphasis. We don't translate the word sometimes, as that idea is part of the conjugation. And when you use just one verb conjugated in the affirmative, dattari, and negative, janakattari, we can substitute shimasu for des. So you can also say, 中国語の先生は中国人だったりそうじゃなかったりです。Our last example, prizes are sometimes money and sometimes things. In Japanese, 商品はお金だったり物だったりします。商品はお金だったり物だったりします。To summarize, in this lesson, we learned how to enumerate actions using the TARI-TARI SURU conjugation. We use this conjugation to enumerate a few actions among many in no particular order. TARI-TARI SURU also is used to describe repetitive actions and can be used for adjectives and nouns to describe inconsistent states and situations. The TARI-TARI SURU conjugation is formed from the plain past affirmative conjugation of a verb or adjective, and to it we add ri. And it ends in some form of the verb suru, meaning to do. Two actions are usually enumerated, but one action, tari suru, is used sometimes. The suru ending can be conjugated to the negative, past tense, and other modalities, such as request, permission, prohibition, and so on. So this ends our lesson on enumerating actions. See you in the next lesson. Ganbatte kudasai. If you're serious about becoming fluent in Japanese, it's important to practice daily, learn grammar, and build up vocabulary. My whole course is designed to give you a strong basic foundation in the Japanese language that you can build solidly upon. So please click like, share, or subscribe and watch the next video in the series. Nihongo no benkyou ni ganbatte kudasai. じゃあ、またね。